In this video, I'm gonna rank every single multi-barrel weapon in Fortnite history from worst to best. Of course, it's pretty obvious what constitutes a multi-barrel weapon as long as it has more than one barrel on it, like the double-barrel shotgun, the Twinfire auto shotgun. Those weapons will be on this list, but also I will be including dual-wield weapons because yes, while those individual weapons only have one barrel, you put them together as one item and they have two barrels. So I'm going to include the dual wields on this list. Also, there's really just not enough dual-wield weapons to make them their own list, so I wanted to make sure they get some love as well. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe. We are 2/3 of the way towards 100,000 subscribers, and be sure to use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop with your next purchase. But with all of that out of the way, let's get right into this ranking. At my number 20 spot is going to be the dual Fiend Hunters, and yes, I know, not barrels, but it is an akimbo weapon, and I just couldn't leave it out. I mean, technically, you could consider it a multi-barrel weapon, even though they don't have the physical barrels there. You guys get what I'm saying. They're in last place. They're horrible. And I couldn't just leave the dual Fiend Hunters out and include the rest of the akimbo, so I'm putting it here, but yeah, it's really just not good. Anyways, at number 19 is the wood stake shotgun. Again, this is another weapon that its barrel situation is kind of confusing, but if you look at the weapon at face value, you have all these stakes kind of lined up in a row, and to me, that looks like multiple barrels, and so yes, it will be included on this list. The wood stake shotgun is just really not a good shotgun. Slug shotguns in general in Fortnite really struggle. I think especially when this weapon came back in Chapter 5, Season 4, you really saw how hard it was to use. Everyone's flying around in jetpacks. It's just so difficult. There's no reason why you should be taking the wood stake shotgun over any other shotgun, honestly, in Fortnite history. And at the number 18 spot is the Oni shotgun. Yes, you should take the Oni shotgun over the wood stake shotgun, and that's saying a lot because the Oni is really bad. It's your classic double barrel shotgun, but it's more tailored towards longer range, whereas the older double barrel shotgun from Chapter 1 is more geared towards, you know, those super close ranges. Look, like, I know the Oni shotgun got a bunch of buffs, but to me, it is still the worst shotgun in Chapter 6, and honestly, I would go so far as say is one of the worst shotguns of all time. I know there is a little fan club of people that enjoy the Oni shotgun, but I'm not one of them. At number 17 is the Primal shotgun, and wow, look at this, a Chapter 2 Season 6 weapon not in last place, and honestly, I was surprised this weapon had two barrels, but if you zoom in, if you look at it, there is very clearly two barrels there. There was definitely a time where I was on the stake that the Primal shotgun was the worst Fortnite shotgun of all time. I have come down on that. It is a little bit better than a couple of other shotguns, of course, I just named two of them, and pre-nerf, yeah, fantastic, one of the best shotguns of all time. Post-nerf, absolutely horrible. I just really don't understand why we are doing 2-round burst shotguns. It never works. At number 16 is Deadpool's dual-wield hand cannons from Chapter 2, Season 2, and again, this is another weapon that so many people seem to be so fond of, and I don't really understand why. It is severely worse in almost every single metric than just your regular dual-wield pistols, and of course, the whole kind of caveat with this weapon is it does much less damage than your regular dual-wield pistols, but you get health and shield every time you shoot somebody. Every time you hit them with these pistols, I believe it was 3 health. Now, think about that. I mean, are you going to trade off like 20-something damage per shot just in return for +3? No, not at all. I mean, 21 damage is absolutely pitiful. There's no reason you should ever even think about taking these weapons. And I know so many people love Deadpool, and these weapons were a big letdown for Deadpool, but you know, I gotta do what I gotta do. They're really just not great weapons. Moving on to number 15 is the Dub. Of course, this is the exotic version of the double barrel shotgun from Chapter 1, and every time I poorly rank this weapon, which honestly, it has been quite a bit of time since I've had the opportunity to rank the Dub, but anyways, there's always a group of people that seem to kind of come after me, say, oh, the Dub is the most fun weapon in Fortnite history, it's so good. And yes, while it might be fun, it's not practical at all. This is a weapon that is meant to be used at super close range inside of your box. Why would you want to use it when it pushes you backwards? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, yes, great, it can save you from fall damage, you can have some cool clips with it, I totally get it. But if it's meant to be used at uber close range, why is it pushing you backwards? I just don't understand. I can't wrap my head around that. It is a fun weapon, no doubt, right? But in terms of practicality, I just don't see it. Moving on to my number 14 spot on this list is the quad launcher. Of course, this weapon has 4 barrels, and you know, the quad launcher is one of those weapons that I don't really have that many fond memories of. I don't really think of it to be like anything extravagant, anything crazy, but it's really not terrible. Would I still rather take a regular RPG over it? Yeah, absolutely. And that's mainly because the rockets that you shoot out of the quad launcher don't shoot in a straight line. They have a massive arc towards them. It is such a pain to try and like line up an accurate quad launcher shot. But with that being said, of course, you do get a ton of pressure. As long as you have a lot of rockets, you can just continuously spam rockets at somebody. And the only reason why it's so far down on this list is because the exotic version is considerably better. Again, like, it definitely has its use cases, but I think a regular rocket launcher just does everything better personally. Moving on to our number 13 spot is another 4-barrel weapon, but this time it is the Dragon's Breath shotgun. And you want to talk about the definition definition of a high risk, high reward weapon? Well, this is it. You get one shot. You shoot 4 shells and then you have to reload all 4 shells. So if you're in someone's box, you better hit that shot or 9 out of 10 times you're gonna die. And it's not just hit that shot, right? You have to do a lot of damage, because if you're not doing a lot of damage, you're gonna be in some serious trouble. You're basically gonna be banking on your SMG to be doing a ton of damage, and that's not always the best thing depending on the meta. Obviously, you know, you get the big advantage that it can light basically anything on fire, particularly wood, of course. Anything other than literally this gun touching their character model, it is going to be horrible. I really mean that. But in that very, very close range, yeah, it can be one of the best weapons of all time. Like, at that range, you are going to struggle to find, you know, 10 better weapons than it, but as soon as you take like 3 steps back, yeah, it's pretty much useless. And all right, we have our third 4-barrel weapon in a row at number 12. That is the 2-shot shotgun. Again, burst shotguns just don't really work for me. Although what I will say about the 2-shot shotgun is I've seen clips in the right hands, this thing being absolutely disgusting. You get the 2 shots that follow up so quickly with each other, and the pellet spread is relatively tight to the point where it's like, if you are able to land the majority of pellets on both shots, you can do some serious damage. Unfortunately though, it's like, would I ever take the 2-shot shotgun over like your basic pump shotgun or the striker pump shotgun, of course, from chapter 3, or the auto shotgun? No, not at all. It is 100% though the best burst shotgun we have ever seen to date. At number 11 is just your basic double barrel shotgun. This weapon created kind of the inspiration for my idea to make this video, and just like many other shotguns on this list at very, very close range, it is going to absolutely excel. It is so good when you're in somebody's box, because the pellet spread is just so wide that when you're that close to somebody, you're always going to hit them for big time damage. It's just, again, you literally have 0 range. And look, like, I totally understand the counter argument against that, right? Like, when you're using a shotgun, you're not looking for a long range, you're looking for close quarters engagements. I totally get that. But to me, it's more of a gimmicky shotgun than it is an actual useful shotgun. But there are the times when this thing can absolutely be devastating. If you have the unfortunate opportunity of being in a box with an opponent who has a double barrel shotgun, you can basically kiss your life goodbye. At number 10, I have the dual pistols. And let me tell you guys something right now. This is one of the most underrated Fortnite weapons of all time. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see me make a video about some of Fortnite's most underrated weapons, because this 100% has to be. I mean, in the legendary version, you're doing what, 43 damage a shot, and that is for each pistol, might I add. So combine that together, 86 damage every time you pull the trigger, as long as you hit both shots, is unbelievable. You have a tight pellet spread, you get a ton of shots before you have to reload. The dual pistols are really good. I think my only problem with dual pistols is they don't really have a spot in the game, right? Like, are you going to take it for your SMG slot? Like, I would argue no. You would probably rather have a fully automatic SMG in those close quarters, and then for those medium ranges, well, you're just going to take an assault rifle. So like, where does the dual pistols fit, you know, in your inventory? I don't really know. All I'm saying is do not sleep on these weapons. They are incredibly powerful. And at number 9 is going to be the exotic version of dualies. It is the Hop Rock dualies. And so yeah, you can just mimic everything I just said about the dual pistols, chuck it in this spot, and also you get the fact that you get like the little shockwave effect, or should I say the Hop Rock effect. So no fall damage. That means you can, you know, shoot these and then throw a shockwave at your feet, go absolutely flying. You know, it's got a lot of different use cases. My only really gripe with these weapons is sometimes it almost feels like the Hop Rock ability actually messes you up more than it helps you. You know what I mean? Like, you shoot these once and then you go to jump to try and push somebody, and all of a sudden you go flying over, you know, where you want it to go. That can be sometimes annoying, but I will say I do think the Hop Rock ability helps you more than it hurts you, and so that is why it's higher than the regular dual pistols. To me, it simply is just a slightly better version of the regular dual pistols, but if you don't like that Hop Rock effect, I could see you absolutely switching these two in the list. Moving on to number 8 is going to be the Burst Quad Launcher. Of course, I mentioned it earlier in the video. This is the exotic version of the Quad Launcher, and it is so much better. And yes, like, you do still have to deal with the heavy arc of the rockets, but you have so much more firepower here. If you guys don't know, again, you have 4 barrels, but each barrel shoots 2 rockets. So you shoot once, it shoots out 2 rockets, but it only counts as 1 in your inventory. So technically, you are shooting 8 rockets while only having to use 4, right? Of course, the regular Quad Launcher can only shoot 4. This shoots 8 at the same cost. So you see why it is so much better. Again, like, the burst delay is kind of annoying sometimes, but I'm not going to be too overly critical. It's obviously meant to be kind of a funny, gimmicky weapon that it is supposed to be actually useful, but with that being said, it can be useful in some situations. I mean, if somebody's in a 1x1, they're absolutely dead. There's no way you can escape from somebody that's using the burst quad launcher like that. Moving on to number 7 is going to be the dual micro SMGs from chapter 5 season 4. These are a really interesting weapon. To me, it almost seems like it's split right down the middle. Half the people in the community love these weapons, and half of them think they're really annoying, you get no range, and they're difficult to use, and I kind of sit somewhere in the middle. Obviously, you are dual wielding like incredibly fast firing SMGs, and so that means they are wildly inaccurate at those like medium ranges, but at the ranges when they're meant to be used, they do excel. I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos, but unfortunately the dual Micro SMGs just fall victim to the gatekeeper shotgun epidemic. That is what I like to call the epidemic that basically any close quarters weapon is absolutely useless because everybody was running around with the gatekeeper shotgun, which of course is one of the strongest shotguns we've ever seen. And so nobody really wanted to carry SMGs for, I would argue, all of Chapter 5. Maybe Chapter 5 Season 1 with the Thunderburst would be the only exception. But if you want like an absolute bullet hose weapon, just slide towards them and just spray as many bullets in their direction as possible, this is absolutely the weapon you're going to go for. But moving on to number 6, from Chapter 6 Season 1, I have the Twinfire auto shotgun. Now, I voiced this in my previous videos, this is not a weapon that I'm crazy about. What I will say is a couple weeks ago, this weapon got a massive buff and it was so needed because the reload speed was absolutely horrible. It was literally one of the longest reload speeds on any weapon I've ever seen in Fortnite. It was so unnecessary and they buffed it like crazy. It sped up the reload speed by almost like a full second, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. My major complaint here is that you only get 7 shots. I know the magazine size says 14, but you have to remember it is a double barrel weapon. And so every time you shoot 1 shot, it uses 2 shells. So you only get 7 in a fully automatic weapon. It's just not enough. If this weapon had like the Frenzy auto shotguns mag of like 12, oh my god, this thing would be so much better. But with that said, like, don't forget, I mean, you are doing almost 80 damage in the legendary rarity for a fully auto shotgun. That is pretty good. It's going to get the job done in a lot of cases. Unfortunately, I just think the Sentinel pump shotgun is miles better. That's all I'm going to say about that. At number 5 is Chapter 2 Season 8 Sideways Minigun. This is a weapon that I dogged on so hard during Chapter 2 Season 8, but now that I've kind of taken a step back and watched more gameplay of it, this weapon actually is incredible, and especially in Fortnite Reload, I've used this thing a bunch. It can be so deadly at literally any range. The only thing is you just have to get that fire rate sped up. It's very similar to the Surge Fire SMG. They have the same mechanic. You know, the longer you shoot it, the tighter the hip fire spread gets, the faster the fire rate, and overall just the better the weapon gets. That mechanic makes this weapon so good for spamming because you just put like 10 bullets into someone's wall, right? You don't really care, and all of a sudden you keep holding down that trigger and you're firing like a crazy fire rate, insanely accurate. Your bullets are going to start leaking through walls. You're going to start to do some good damage. It is a really good support weapon, and in the right situations, you can absolutely maul people with this weapon. I promise you, just watch the gameplay. It can be so good. But anyways, on to number 4 is one of my favorite weapons of all time from Chapter 4. It is the Thunder Shotgun. And look, I will die on the hill that I think the Thunder Shotgun needs to be in the talks for like the top 5 shotguns of all time. The damage output just seems to be unbelievable on this weapon. The legendary version, listen to this, 118 damage. That is absolutely insane. Now, again, you do struggle with a low magazine size similar to the Twinfire auto shotgun. It will say 8, but of course, every time you shoot, you use 2, so you really only get 4 shots. And as you guys can see with the Sentinel pump shotgun, 4 shots instead of 5 with your base shotgun can come back to bite you sometimes. I really am a fan of everything about this weapon, like the horizontal kind of oval reticle rather than, you know, your regular circle crosshairs. I just think it's better, and everything about this weapon just excels, except for that reload speed. That reload speed is pretty bad. Anyways, moving on to number 3 is the minigun. This will include Brutus's minigun, but it will not include RG's minigun. Now, RG's minigun actually has different stats than Brutus's minigun, and that is why I am ranking them separately. But for now, in this spot, let's just talk about Brutus's minigun and the regular minigun because they are some of the best Fortnite weapons of all time. In my opinion, Brutus's minigun was clear-cut the best mythic in Chapter 2 Season 2, and there's an argument that it's the best mythic of all time. Now, personally, I don't believe that, but it is very close to that. I mean, you can use it at any range. You can jump into someone's box and use it. You can use it at long range. You can use it at even sniper range, and I promise you this thing puts in absolute work. And I could be wrong, but there is always people in my comment section that are telling me the legendary minigun actually has the same stats as Brutus's minigun. I remember this being a talking point back in Chapter 2 Season 2, so let me know if that's still the case. And if it is, you know, that just makes the regular minigun so much better. Obviously, you know, it doesn't infinitely fire like it used to do, but I love the trade-off that they gave it. The cool-off really does a good job at balancing this weapon, and Brutus's minigun is absolutely insane, guys. But it's beat out by the Gatekeeper shotgun at number 2. Now, I briefly spoke about it, and how many shotguns are there in Fortnite history that literally just make it so you don't have to take any other close quarters weapons? I mean, even weapons like the Enhanced Havoc Pump Shotgun or the regular pump shotgun, you still want to carry an SMG with them, you know, take your big shot, switch to the SMG. The Gatekeeper shotgun was doing big time damage numbers like those weapons, but had 3 shots and sometimes even 5 with a drum mag before you needed to reload, and so that meant that nobody was taking SMGs. Anything close quarters was totally dominated by the Gatekeeper shotgun. Absolutely outclassed the, you know, the hammer pump shotgun, the Sovereign shotgun. I mean, they just didn't stand a chance. And before you say anything about it, yes, look at the weapon model. It does have 3 barrels on it. I also think just with that triangular reticle, it almost feels easier to hit your shots. What a satisfying weapon. It is absolutely incredible, but it's not the best multi-barrel weapon in Fortnite history. And that's because Rap God's minigun from Chapter 2 Remix takes that #1 spot. I mean, yes, it is identically functioning to Brutus's minigun, except for one key stat. And that key stat is the cooldown time. Now, the cooldown time for RG's minigun is only 2.7 seconds. So that means you can spam this thing as long as possible. You only have to wait 2.7 seconds during the cooldown, and then you can get right back into firing. Whereas with Brutus's minigun, the cooldown time is 4.5 seconds. So almost 2 seconds faster you can shoot RG's minigun after it cools down than Brutus's minigun. And that is a massive deal. I know 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but I can promise you this, it really, really is. Other than that, it is the exact same weapon as Brutus's minigun. You get the same fire rate, the same structure damage, DPS, all that stuff is exactly the same, but it gets ahead of it solely based off of how quick that cooldown speed is. Now, the last thing that I will say about RG's minigun is I actually do see an argument for Brutus's minigun being better than it, even though the cooldown speed is such significantly faster, and that's because of the lyrics. The lyrics that come up when you shoot this weapon, of course, to Eminem's Rap God, you know, that can be really distracting. It can almost get in your field of view when you're shooting, and if you didn't want those lyrics and you don't mind the cooldown, I think that you could make the argument that Brutus's minigun is better. But for me personally, I'm gonna stick with RG's minigun. I think it's the best multi-barrel weapon in Fortnite history, with also the most barrels for a weapon in Fortnite history. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that ranking. You know, every single day I am brainstorming for like an hour trying to come up with creative ideas for you guys, so I really hope you appreciate that, and I hope you don't find these videos to be, you know, too niche. I'm trying my best to find big groups of rankings that I can kind of fit under one umbrella. But again, if you went on to enjoy this video, of course, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.